for more on this book, we're now joined by Chiedza Chagutah from Hlanganisa Community Fund, and she is the programs manager, and she joins us via our video link. Chiedza, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition on SABC News. Today was a big day for you. Of course, you launched your book titled Mare. Perhaps maybe let's start off with you telling us about this book. What went into writing this book?
So the book is actually a collection of stories, as you rightfully point out. Mare is a book of 6 blind women who've experienced gender-based violence from childhood into their adulthood. These stories are actually a product of a storytelling retreat that we sought to host to just spotlight the intersection between disability and gender-based violence. And so what the book does is the women go into detailed accounts of violence that they've experienced. And what it actually shows is that, when we are talking about disability and gender-based violence, we are talking about going beyond just having wheelchair ramps and some of the generic addressing of barriers that we think solves the problem of gender-based violence amongst women with disabilities.
And speaking specifically to the 4 countries you focus on in the book, why did you specifically focus on gender-based violence faced by women with disabilities in these 4 countries?
So our journey as Hlanganisa with GBV and disability actually started in 2016 through the work that we do with grassroots organizations and social justice movements who highlighted the challenge that they have in providing services to women with disabilities. And they actually expressed that they didn't know how to assist these women in their communities, and yet they could see the need. So what we did is we commissioned a piece of research to just understand what some of the nuances and the dynamics are around women with disabilities and how they experience gender-based violence. And so it's been a journey that's culminated over a number of years in terms of just the specific issues that women with different forms of disabilities face, and which is why you see that Mare is actually a storybook that features blind women because of the particular challenges that blind women face.
And perhaps take us through some of those challenges when writing this book, and specifically when it comes to gender-based violence, being faced by women who are struggling, with their vision.
So I think one of the major challenges that was highlighted in the stories was that women with disabilities are generally perceived as weak and dependent on others in society. And so you find that there's a lot of community members, family members, spouses, boyfriends, partners that take advantage of these women. And so that was one of the major highlights. The second highlight is that, storytelling itself, because justice is, when we look at justice, we seek to look at it from a holistic perspective, and one of those elements is really around healing, and storytelling is a big part of getting to that healing. And so just getting the women to find the space safe enough for them to open up and tell their stories, I think was another hurdle that we really tried to navigate, and I think in the end we got there. And so there's just a lot of barriers around women not being believed when they say they are experiencing violence from their intimate partners. It's almost like, you should be grateful that he even loves you or that he's your partner. and everything else, as we know with gender-based violence, is, keep it in the family. There's no need to report him because you're depending on this person in terms of your of economic of income in the household. So I think there's just a lot of barriers within the justice system itself. It's not equipped to support women with disabilities, blind women in particular. The kind of questions that are asked when you've experienced violence, you're asked what did the person look like? I mean, you're blind. How are you expected to describe this perpetrator in a way that that you can explain, but also, evidence can be collected. So there's a number of issues within the system itself, within society, and I think also even amongst organizations that support women with disabilities. And lastly, I just want to say, I think one of the biggest problems that women face is that it's mostly been women organizations that support people with disabilities that work with women with disabilities, and we're trying to get to a point where we integrate and we see women as women and acknowledge the intersections, the different intersections that women find themselves at, and disability is one of those.
And Chiedza, listening to these stories in which you experienced from these 6 women, what would you say or what do you think is the reasons behind that, women with disabilities who've encountered gender-based violence are really not taken seriously, because that's the kind of picture you are painting?
I think it's a big societal problem in terms of how we choose to we choose to whose account to believe. And we say that women with disabilities are on the margins simply because of that. When it's not just around, around the issue that we're talking about around violence, because, sometimes what we see from these stories, if you hear these accounts from childhood, it's almost like you don't deserve an opportunity. And the same thing happens over and over again in their lives. And so they are really not seen as members of society that actually contribute something meaningful to community, to society. And for us, that's really the importance in having an intersectional approach in terms of how we see different members of society. We really need to acknowledge the ones that are generally invisible in terms of programs and so forth.
And Chiedza, if somebody would like to get a hold of this book and would like to read up more on the experiences of these 6 women, how do you get a hold of your book?
So the book is available online. Visit www.hlanganisa.org.za. The book is also available in an audio format.
All right, Chiedza, thank you so much for your time here on SABC News. That is Chiedza Chagutah. She is the programs manager for Hlanganisa Community Fund.